All right, 6 minutes after 10 o'clock. It's nice looking out there. I do believe that it's warmer in here than out there, I guess. I'm not sure. But Carolyn Biddle is kind of warm, dressed up like it's cold out there. And she's in the studio right now. This is Realty Reality. Carolyn, of course, as you know, is a realtor and the office manager of Janus International Realty. And she says things are picking up. So she's on the air today to answer your questions about selling or buying a home, a new one for yourself, or perhaps moving into a new one or out of one. Joe Fowler is not here, but if you need information on mortgages, he is the guy to go to. He's the branch manager of Inlanta Mortgage, and in the course of the show, we'll give you both Carolyn's phone number and Joe's. If Joe comes in here, maybe he'll do it himself. Otherwise, one of us will do it. Carolyn Biddle. Good morning, Carolyn.
Good morning, Larry. How you doing this morning?
Good. You dressed warm. You knew it was cold out, right?
Yeah, well, actually, it's a little colder than even I thought. So I dressed warm, and it's nice fall weather out there. It's really, really pretty. But the sun's coming back out. It rained for a few minutes.
Yeah.
And made everything kind of wet, but it's looking good out there.
And I'm not a meteorologist, although I play one on the telephone. And I was watching the screen on the Weather Channel, and it looked like after that green mass of rain was this cold front. So that must be what we're feeling, huh?
Oh, probably. Yeah, it's supposed to get down into the 40s tonight. So we need to bundle up a little bit and just kind of enjoy this nice crisp fall weather.
I haven't been in my 40s in a while.
No, it hasn't. So it's welcome. It's a nice change.
Yeah.
So we're going to crank up the fire pit tonight and maybe get some s'mores going and all that fun stuff that you do when the weather changes. Nice. Yeah. So
now, are you empty nesters, you and your husband? Not to get too personal, but do you have any children at home?
No. We're definitely empty nesters.
Yeah.
I have one son that's in the Navy who was down to visit, and he's going back, and we wish him a safe trip back to. He's stationed over in Spain. So we wish him a safe trip back to Spain, and we'll miss him until he comes down again.
Yeah.
And everybody else is just, we have one settling into their new home that they just purchased. They just closed on a beautiful new home in Atlanta. And, two more down south in South Florida. So
we always think of Spain as being a hot country, but is it? It's actually further north than we are.
It is a little further north, and it gets, it gets cooler in part of the regions. But actually, he's over on the south end of Spain, so he's actually experiencing very similar temperatures, maybe a little bit cooler than what we are right now.
Okay, yeah.
Maybe I probably equate it to like what's going on in Atlanta. So it's beautiful weather, not too hot, not too cold, kind of that Goldilocks syndrome. It's just right. Yeah.
You know what's weird is when you look at the storm that hit the Northeast. And you realize that's usually the other way around. They're looking at us in the storm and thanking God they don't live here. I wonder how many of them are saying, "All right, I'm moving," because tomorrow they're expected to get a whole bunch of snow.
Yeah,
they're getting a 1-2 punch.
Yeah, everybody's talking about that. A lot of the people that have been displaced, and all of the homes that were lost in that one region.
Yeah.
Really, really a tough blow for them. I mean, at least what we have when we have a hurricane down here, when we got hit with Katrina and Wilma, Charlie, all those. We at least the worst we have to contend with is maybe it's a little too hot. But these people don't have any place to go. I mean, it's freezing temperatures out there, so it's really tough situation. My heart goes out to them.
What do you think? This is kind of a more like a I don't know, Barbara Walters kind of a question. But what do you think makes a house a home? It's kind of a dumb question, but this is the time of year where you don't want a house, you want a home.
Yeah.
Right? when you talk about making s'mores with your husband, that sounds like a home. That's not a house.
Exactly. Well, this is the season when everyone wants a home because it's holiday season. So holiday season, everybody thinks about sitting around the fireplace and singing Christmas carols, hot cocoa, all the fun things and the parties, the Thanksgiving feast, all the wonderful things that invoke all those great memories. And really that's an easy question because it's just those things that the difference between what makes a house or a home. And lots of people buy houses. You have an investor type that will buy a house for an investment purposes. They're going to put their money into it. They're going to make a little bit of a profit, and they're going to sell it. Well, that's a house. And then you have the other person, the first-time home buyer, who scrapes together their money. They put a nice down payment on a house that they plan to live in, raise their children in, build their memories in. That's a home.
Yeah. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so there's a huge difference. I mean, there is two different how should I say contexts that you can use that in.
So you want to sell your house? Somebody says to you, I want to sell a house. I want to have it sold by Christmas. Is that potentially possible?
It is potentially possible.
But not likely?
No, this market is actually picking up quite a bit.
Oh, really?
Absolutely. Yes, we are definitely on the upswing. All the reports are saying wonderful things. There's a major mortgage company called Aquin Financial Group. They actually recorded record earnings in the third quarter of this year, which is amazing because, I mean, they're not just talking about, well, it was better than we expected. They're talking about record increases.
Yeah.
So they're doing quite well. The reason they're doing quite well is because people are buying homes. And when people are buying homes, they're getting mortgages. The mortgage companies are, coming up in their profits. The profits will spill over into good news for the investors. The investors will build homes, and people will buy homes. We're really, really seeing a lot of good stuff happening in the market.
Is your profession in general holding their breath to see what happens today? And does whatever happens today, at least on the national level, does it change your strategy in any way? Or could it change it?
Well, anything that happens, in the market, as far as what's going on in the world, as far as what's going on in the country, the storms in New York, for example, in New Jersey, any of those things has an impact on what we do. So we always have to adjust accordingly depending on what's going on. So sometimes it can cause the prices to go up, as it is right now with the improving economy.
Right.
And like you said, Larry, I mean, I think some of the people that are living up in New York and New Jersey might think twice and come on down and see us here. When Katrina and Wilma hit in South Florida and in Central Florida too, a lot of people left because they said, "Oh, this is really a scary place to be. I'm not sure I want to live here."
Yeah.
And that can have an effect on you. So yes, these things do definitely.
And yet we're known for the hurricanes. And my goodness, 2004 was the last one that came through here. That's a long time. That's 8 years.
That is a long time ago. But it stays in people's minds. And So, but I think that's kind of getting past us. And we didn't have a major hurricane for almost 30 years. Between the time that the last one hit and we had Katrina and Wilma and all those terrible storms came through. So between that time, there was 30 years of really good living in South Florida. And in general, if you have one bad storm, you get your insurance, you fix your home up, and you just live on because things happen. There's nothing we can do to predict that. People in New York, they didn't see this storm coming. But you don't just pick up and leave every time because that happens.
Right.
You rebuild.
And I thought the storm lived up to its name because it did leave a lot of sand on the streets and
oh, that's cute.
On the coast. The phone line is open if you would like to speak to Carolyn. It looks like the phone is ringing. I don't know why the first line is ringing. It looks like the second line is ringing. I don't know why that would be. Let's go to the phone. Carolyn is here to answer your questions about real estate. The number is the Climate Control Source Hotline, 622-9622. Good morning. You're on the air with Carolyn.
Good morning, Carolyn. I have a question about the up-and-coming taxes that are supposed to take effect, I believe, in January. And one of those is, 2.3% sales tax on your house that's collected by the federal government. And I'm just wondering if you have heard anything about that, whether it's being implemented or is it just there sitting in the wings to pounce on us or what? And I'll hang up and listen to your comments. Thank you.
Okay. Well, that's a very good question. And I believe, as far as I know and understand at this point, that it is poised to take effect in January. The other thing I actually believe is that whatever happens today is probably going to really set the pace for what's going to be happening in January. So that's kind of a tough question to answer today. Maybe tomorrow I might have a better answer.
Yeah, you might.
Yeah.
It's all speculative, though, isn't it?
Yeah, so we're right on that precipice now. We're going to just be able to see it. And I think that's going to really have an effect on our market here locally as well, because I think a lot of people have been kind of holding their breath, just waiting to see, what they should do, which way they should go. And just the preoccupation of what could happen can prevent people from buying or selling, too.
Yeah. It's one of those things that if you were in the middle of having to move, this, I guess this would be a good time. In other words, if suddenly your job moved and you had to move, you might say, well, at least it's now. At least it wasn't 3 years ago.
That's true.
You know?
Because this is an excellent time. We are entering into a normal, what we would call a normal market. And a normal market is when it takes, anywhere between 3 to 6 months for a home to sell.
Huh.
And if you're falling into that range, then you're basically falling into a normal market where the prices are very slowly increasing and the demand is keeping up with the supply. So this is where we're seeing ourselves right now. This is great. The foreclosure rate has come down like almost by a third, which is amazing. We still have shadow inventory, which is homes that the banks own and they're hanging on to, which is, good for the economy. It's bad for the banks. They want to be able to get rid of this, but they're releasing it a little bit more slowly to try to keep things from going back to the way they were. And, it's helping. But it's also kind of keeping prices a little bit artificially lower than they need to be. We are seeing increases, but they're very slow, very minor.
Okay.
But there's still increases. We increased like 4% over last year, which is not a lot, but it is something, and that is better than what we were doing before.
Yeah, and it's just a sign of the economy changing.
Yes.
And hopefully will continue to change for the better.
Yeah, I think so. I think everything is solidified, and we're at the point where, unless something really crazy happens, that, we're going to continue back up on the upswing of the real estate market.
And, I'm not really a political person in regards to, like, the way some people are. But if you look at the party leadership between the Democrats and Republicans and just try to make a real big generalization, it does seem like it changes with whoever's in power. And not just with Congress, but with the president specifically. So,
well, I think you pointed out exactly it. There's such a fundamental difference between the two parties, that in what they believe and then the way they operate because of what they believe. It makes it does make a difference in the market.
Yeah.
And a lot of people knowing that, or fearing what could happen, because it seems like there's a lot of fear out there this time around. Excuse me.
Well, there always is. It's the other side that fears.
Yeah.
Regardless of whoever's in, it's the other side that's afraid things are going to fall apart.
Well, true. So it's this definitely will change the market in the way that I think people will stop thinking about what's going to happen and start thinking about what am I going to do with my life. So that's kind of a good thing. And besides that, we're all getting tired of these political commercials anyway. So.
You know it. So what? Yeah, not to get too personal again, and this isn't really about real estate, but do you have plans for the holiday season? You going elsewhere for Thanksgiving, for example?
Oh, well, that's a really good question. Actually, we have thrown several ideas around. Actually, probably what we are going to do is just stay fairly local and just spend the Christmas with my sister and my brother-in-law in Eustis. So that's
not a bad plan.
Yeah, not a bad plan. And I get out of cooking again. Yay!
It's fun. It's fun to travel, but at the same time, sometimes when you think, "Oh, just stay around here," it's not a bad. It's like a staycation, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So we've kind of been, invited different ways, and I think we're going to stay close this time.
Do you know,
we're getting tired.
Dan and Joe and I were talking about something yesterday, and I want to kind of tell you what we were talking about and see what you can add to it. We were looking at the buildings that they build as like retirement homes, not assisted living, but just the ones that what do they call them? They don't call them retirement homes. They call them independent living. Okay? There's really no assistance. There's really no nurse on duty. They make meals, but I think that's about it. And I think they change your beds once or twice a week or something like that. But the rent is unbelievable. If I was to build a big building and charge $800-900 for a unit, that's about what it goes for now.
Well, I've heard a little more.
No, I don't mean for those. I mean for a normal apartment.
Excuse me. Oh, you're just talking about a normal
apartment would be like $800 or $900. Those places are like $3,000 a month.
Yeah.
So why don't we just go on a cruise ship somewhere, and all the food is prepared, and you got even doctors and nurses on staff, and you get to go to the Caribbean. A lot.
Well, if you could do it for $3,000 a month, that would be awesome.
Oh, so now that's not likely?
Well, I'm not in the travel business, but what I understand about cruises, they might be like more about $300 a week. So yeah, maybe it would be.
So,
yeah,
but
might not be so bad.
But I guess what we were thinking is, if we were going to be like real estate moguls,
if you're going to be spending that kind of money,
if we're real estate moguls and we're going to build a big building.
Oh, I understand what you're saying.
Wouldn't we make more money if we made it independent living as opposed to Regular, normal apartments?
It certainly seems that way.
You fill it up, you make it $3,000 a pop. Good morning. You're on there with Carolyn.
Hi, Carolyn.
Hi.
See, my wife and myself, in a few years, are thinking of downsizing. We got a pretty good sized home here, and everybody's gone. It's just us, and I'm getting tired of doing all the housework. It's too big. Have you heard anything, or are you aware of anything going on in the downtown area as far as condominium development?
Okay, that's a good question. I haven't actually heard anything in that regard. As far as I understand, they are doing some redeveloping.
Yeah.
But the redeveloping, I think, is more beautification and restoration than actually building condominiums that I'm aware of. I haven't heard anything to that regard. But that's something that maybe kind of piques my interest a little bit. I might ask some questions around and see what I can find out.
I know about a year or so ago, you heard little things and you read little things in the paper about possibility of building condominium complexes in the downtown area. Which personally, I love myself. I love the downtown area, and it'd be so handy and it'd be nice to have. Right now, there isn't too much or anything to really select from, but it'd be great if that development would take hold and move on.
Yeah, and I know that they were talking about some over in the Villages at one point in time, and that and of course the market has gotten slow, but we do have a few, and like you said, the selection is kind of limited.
Yes.
But I have not heard anything, and that's definitely something that I can check into.
Okay, I'll be listening in the future, hoping you can come up with something for us.
Okay.
Thank you.
It's 22 minutes after 10 o'clock. Let me mention Carolyn's phone number. Well, right now, if you want to call Carolyn, the number is the studio line, which is the WOCA Climate Control Source Hotline, 352, if you're out of the area, and then 622-WOCA, 622-9622. And, Carolyn, what is your number at your office?
Okay, if you need to reach me, you can call me at 352-533-8586. Or you can reach us on our website at wesellandrent.com.
Now, Joe Fowler, who is not here, his office line is 352-364-0076, and that, of course, you would call Joe if you needed information on getting a mortgage. One of the things I've learned from Joe over the past month that you've been doing the show is little tips on how to improve your credit, which is ultimately super important if you're trying to buy a home.
Absolutely. Yeah, you need to get your credit in line if you're thinking about buying a home. This is the time to give Joe a call, and just ask him general questions. If you're not really specific about when you want to buy or what you want to buy, have him pre-qualify you and see what you can actually afford. And if there's any way that you can improve your credit, if you're not ready to be in a position to do that, just find out what it would take and start on that path to do that. Because sometimes if you have a little something in your credit score that you didn't know was there, or maybe you did know it was there, it could take sometimes 3 to 6 months to get it in line, which is not a long time. It's pretty quick when you start working on it. Time flies before you know it, and between 3 to 6 months, you can be in a position to buy a home.
Yeah. And as far as getting an actual loan, Joe was telling us about improving the credit and cleaning it up, as you were saying. And one of the tips I remember was getting a secured card or something like that, right? Oh,
yeah. He was talking about there are companies that will issue you a credit card that you pay the money in on, and it's kind of like almost like a rechargeable cell phone kind of an idea. But what it does is that every month when you pay your bill and you recharge your credit card, you put maybe $500 into the credit card, and you use some of the money and you repay it.
You pay it back.
And you pay it back, and then they report that to the credit reporting agencies. This improves your credit score.
It's very good news.
It shows as a regular payment on your credit score, and it helps to improve your credit over 3 to 6 months. Or if you have no credit, even better, because then it starts you with a credit history.
Yeah. Now let me ask this: every now and then somebody will say you need 20% down for a house. That can be a lot of money, 20%.
It sure can. I mean, that depending on the price of the house, you are talking about a big chunk of money, and it's a very it's a daunting task for a lot of people. But 20% down is what is basically required for a conventional loan, and those are the great rates that you hear about. The 3.5%, 3.25%. Those are the really, really great rates. But FHA and USDA are both really good programs that you can get. FHA will do it with 5% down, and USDA with 0% down. And you can still get great rates, like 3% and 5%, because they're government-backed loans.
I got you.
So depending on what's going on in your life, you can have a higher debt ratio with FHA, meaning that you can afford more house for your income. So if you are falling into a lower income and you can't afford very much, it will buy you more house.
And clarify this a little bit, because I thought Joe had said it's got to be your money. You couldn't get your rich uncle to give you the 20%. Am I right about that?
Yes, that's absolutely correct. And they have something. They have a term in the mortgage company. It's called source and seasoning. They want to know where you got the money from, and they need to have it there for a certain amount of time to show that it's really your money. So it has to be, just held there in an account. You have to be able to prove it, or if you moved it from another account, you have to be able to show the account that you moved it from, and show that you have had this money in your possession for X amount of time. The only real exception that I'm aware of, and of course Joe can definitely clarify this for us, is if you sell a home. That is also your source, because if you sell a home and you get the money from the sale of the home, that's your source and your seasoning. So you can actually use that money, buy right away.
Yeah.
It sounds like a recipe, doesn't it?
It's a recipe for a home buying.
Like I'm cooking. Yeah,
recipe for buying a home.
Yeah, but it's it is a requirement, and you can't borrow the money from someone else. Now in FHA, and since I'm not the mortgage broker, I know I'm not an authority on this, but I have been in real estate for 15 years, and I've dealt with it many times. So there are some things that are just, pretty well known in the industry. So I'm speaking as a quasi-novice. That with FHA, you can have some of the money borrowed. You can borrow your closing costs. You can borrow the money for your inspections and your appraisals. The only thing that you have to have that can be gifted, part of it, I believe. Now this is where Joe comes in at. He can clarify this again. I believe you have to come up with at least 3.5%. That has to be your money, and everything else can be borrowed. Can
the down payment be borrowed from like a credit card? If it's your own credit card?
I don't believe it can be. I believe it has to be like a gift.
It's a large credit card.
A gift from a relative, or borrowing it from your IRA or your 401k that you have from your work.
Right.
So you can get it from those places, but you can aunt, uncle, brother, sister, mother, father, anybody in your family that wants to lend you the money to buy the house with. It goes really well with FHA, and you can get the seller to pay your closing costs as well.
And can it be from the sale of the house you're in? Let's say you move it out, but you haven't sold it yet. Can you promise it? Like you can say, "Look, when the house sells, it'll be there."
That works for conventional loan. FHA, and not too sure about USDA, but with FHA, you can do that if you are moving because you have your job change.
Okay. You have to give them a reason.
You have to give them a reason, because FHA is designed for first-time home buyers.
I got you.
And if you already own a home, obviously you're not a first-time home buyer.
Right. Okay. Well, Carolyn, you stay warm. It looks like it's according to the Weather Channel. I'm looking outside, but I'm really drawing from it. I look at right there, 46 degrees. So that's not what it is now, but I guess that's what they're expecting it to drop to.
At least there's no wind.
Yeah, and snow in the northeast. Looks like if you're heading up that way. Wow, that's hard to believe, right?
Well, best wishes go out to everyone on the East Coast that's going through this right now.
Have you voted already?
Not yet, this afternoon.
You heading now?
Yeah, but I just passed a couple voting precincts on the way here, and it didn't look so bad, so I think I'm going to be in good shape.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Maybe the early voters are the ones who had to suffer through the worst of the lines. Huh?
It could be everybody had to be there before work, so that's one of the things that that's kind of, I guess, is great about my job, is I could just say I'll be back in 5 minutes and run out and do it, and it's not crowded.
Right.
After 5 o'clock, I'm sure it's going to be. So.
All right, Carolyn. Well, thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Thank you.
All right, we'll take a little break and we'll be right back.
Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
The weather is brought to you by myfwc.com. Life jackets save lives. Wear it.